and warm welcome to all the aspiring leaders of tomorrow who has joined this first ever town hall for the students organized by the National HRD Network Kolkata chapter. I extend my warm welcome to all the esteemed guests and speakers.
Srirupa, we have lost you.
Now you're back. I think you can.
Srirupa, you are on mute.
Good morning. A very warm welcome to the students who has joined us, the aspiring leaders of tomorrow, our esteemed guests and speakers. We welcome you to this first ever virtual town hall organized exclusive for the students by National HRD Network, Kolkata chapter. We have esteemed speakers with us today who will share their valuable insights with the leaders of tomorrow. And I would first welcome Mr. Prem Singh, the Honorary National President of NHRD. He has held responsible positions in organizations like Isar Steel, Piramal Enterprise, Wokhard Limited, and J&K organization. He is an alumnus of IIT Delhi. I would request Mr. Singh to give the welcome address and to set the context for this session. Over to you, Mr. Singh.
Okay, thank you, Srirupa. Good morning, everyone. And on behalf of National HRD Network and on my own personal behalf, I extend a very warm welcome to everyone on this wonderful webinar on the town hall. I acknowledge and thank Dr. T.V. Rao, Dr. Anil Khandelwal, Pallavi Jha. Pallavi would have joined very early in the morning out of Paris. Thank you for joining, Pallavi. My other colleagues, for example, Dr. Krish Shanker. Krish Shanker will be joining shortly. Thank you, Krish. Ranjan Banerjee, Kolkata chapter president, and the organizing team. So thank you very much for putting this all together. Our median age today is 28.5 years. And therefore, one of the largest country, but at the same time, one of the youngest countries in the world, that's a big opportunity. And Kolkata chapter, I acknowledge taking this initiative in a very timely manner and bringing the youth. Let me share a word about National HRD Network for the benefit of young leaders of India. Well, National HRD Network is a professional association of HR professionals in the country, which is one of the most premium body of HR profession. It is organized through a large number of chapters, which currently are 38 chapters in India as well as outside India, and we are continuing to strengthen our presence. Essentially, our focus is to develop human capability in a very comprehensive manner, particularly focused on youth. And I acknowledge and thank Dr. T.V. Rao, who has been encouraging us and nudging us to focus more on youth and make sure that we induct and engage young future leaders. Dr. T.V. Rao, Dr. Khandelwal, they have always been the strength of pillars for us in driving this movement. How we operate is through the chapters, and like we are engaging with you this morning through the town hall. Similarly, there are many other formats, conferences, webinars, competitions, a lot of engagement activities, a large number of offerings. In the same breath, I would also encourage and request all the members who are not yet the members of NHRDN to associate themselves with the NHRDN, avail of the memberships, and there are tremendous benefits that come along with it in terms of your learning and your continuous development. Now, essentially, given the fact that I have about 10 minutes time, I would like to focus on two major areas, young leaders. Number one, what is changing in India and what it means for all of you. Number two, how do you make the best out of what is happening in India and outside? Well, let's talk about what's happening in India and outside. Globally, there is a lot of conflict all over the world. There is a conflict happening in Gulf, there is a conflict happening in Middle East, there is a conflict happening in Ukraine, Russia, and therefore there is a lot of uncertainty and instability. India, by contrast, has proven its mettle by many recent success stories. And in fact, the story of India is now catching the attention of the entire world. This is a big opportunity. Just imagine a successful landing of Chandrayaan-3. No other country could have done it on the South Pole. Just imagine a country as large as India successfully vaccinating its entire population within 18 months flat. You know, entire world, in fact, the pundits of entire world were busy talking about India and saying that what will happen to India. They were more worried about Indian population. How will they save this country? They will take 30 years to vaccinate their population. All of that have been proven to be wrong. The digital prowess that has been amply demonstrated, and thanks to some of the young leaders who worked with the government, for example, Nandan Nilekani, the entire bedrock of digital in the country, Aadhaar, it's catching the attention of entire world. So the opportunities in India are real. It is now for us to catch those and make sure that we become a part of this story of success and impact. Now let's talk about what's happening within industry, within Indian economy. There is a lot of focus on Atmanirbhar Bharat. There is a lot of focus on Make in India. There is a lot of focus on growing the manufacturing capability and also the services sector. There is a lot of focus on using digital and IT tools. Well, I must say that in addition to manufacturing, there is also enormous opportunity and potential even in the services. For example, education, tourism, healthcare, all these are emerging opportunities and they hold enormous potential. India as a large country offers all these opportunities for our youth. My submission to the youth would be, let's not be limited only to few sectors of economy. Currently, in fact, I would like to talk about a recent survey that we did with my team, covering about 600 school students who are in 9th, 10th, and 11th and 12th standard, asking them about their aspirations. While it was very heartening to know that they are very well aware, very ambitious, they want to make an impact, but there is another side, flip side. Only as low as 6% of them would want to get into manufacturing. Now that leaves so much more scope, because if manufacturing doesn't catch our attention, then we are missing big time. Then the entire dream of Make in India might not be achieved. And therefore, I would encourage young leaders. And coming from a large manufacturing conglomerate, I can share with you that today's manufacturing is not the same which used to be there 20 years ago. Today's manufacturing is really high-tech manufacturing process controlled through high-tech tools, digital tools, connected machines, connected plants. So there is a lot that you can do using your creativity, using your innovation. So let's leverage that opportunity. Talking about the services, there is a lot that is happening, and I would encourage the young leaders to think of all of those sectors. Tourism holds a big promise. Agriculture, lot of work happening. A lot of work happening in circular economy, circularity, sustainability. So all these are areas which must catch attention of our young leaders. So this is a very, very broad pictures, my friends, with respect to what's happening around the world and India, and what are the opportunities for our young leaders. Now, let me spend 3-4 minutes talking about what it takes to be successful and what you should be focusing upon based on my own experience and based on what I have learned in my career from the leaders like Dr. T.V. Rao, Dr. Anil Khandelwal, and many others. See, there are two buckets of skills. One is your functional skills, second is your soft skills. Based on a research, and in fact, many researchers have proved this, your success will be determined by functional skills and your soft skills. Role of your functional expertise is something like 15 to 20%. Large chunk of your success will come through your soft skills. Working with people, using your creativity, thinking out of the box, not giving up so easily, can-do attitude, perseverance, resilience, all these are very important. In fact, a research of McKinsey showed that your success to the extent of 85% is determined by your soft skills. And therefore, it's extremely important that we must develop and hone up our soft skills. A few lessons, few experiences that I have seen myself to be very important within soft skills. Number one, do not stop learning when you pass out of your colleges. There is a perception, there is at times people tend to have a perception that, well, I have acquired my education, I have completed my MBA, and it's done deal, therefore it's all over, and now my learning is complete. Actually, learning starts in a new avatar once you graduate out of college. And learning quotient actually continues to step up once you join any organization. Therefore, remain a lifelong learner. In fact, it's very important to unlearn what is not relevant any longer. Unlearn the habits which are not effective. Unlearn the mindsets which is not helping you. Unlearn those practices, those techniques, so those tools which are not helping you anymore. Acquire something new. Learn new skills. Learn new habits. Therefore, remain a continuous learner. That's number one. Number two, it's very important that you should know your strengths and leverage your strengths. I want to talk about a story about a very classical research that was done by University of Nebraska many years ago. You know why it's so important to focus upon your strengths? University of Nebraska undertook a research on speed reading skills. And based upon the speed reading skills, they studied 600 children and they classified them based upon their speed reading into two groups. One was slow readers, second was fast readers. Slow readers had a speed of something like 90 words. Fast readers had a speed of something like 300 words, around that average. Post that, both the groups were taken through a very structured training of enhancing their speed reading and enhancing their speeds. 6 months later, and during the 6 months, both the groups were subjected to essentially the same inputs, same faculty, same curriculum. The retest was done again after 6 months. The readers who were slow earlier, who were doing 90 words, after 6 months, they enhanced their speed from 90 to 150 words. Good improvement, considerable. The fast readers who were already sitting at 300 plus words, they enhanced their speed, and hold your breath, my friends. They enhanced their speed from 300 to 2800, 2800. Now, what does it tell us? You see, it tells us that we are all wired differently. Certain things are there wired within us. There are certain intrinsic, inherent talents, strengths, certain inherent strengths that all of us have, which are unique to us. It's very important that you realize that early in your career and build on those strengths. The returns will be far more effective, far bigger, if you were to focus on your strengths rather than spending too much time working only on your weaknesses. I'm not suggesting for a moment that completely ignore your weaknesses. My submission is focus 60-70% on developing, honing, leveraging your strengths, and maybe 30-40% on trying to work around your weaknesses. Then the returns will be far better. Just imagine today, for a moment, let's imagine that if we had Sachin Tendulkar and Dr. APJ Kalam as two students, 5-year-old, and if both of them were not Sachin Tendulkar, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, because that is his natural inclination. Similarly, if both of them were to be trained in cricket, perhaps Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam will go up to a certain level, but would he be able to excel? So the question is, realize your relative strengths and build on that. That is what is going to take you to the levels of excellence. Point number 3, it's very important for all of you to realize that all of you work in a team. You are complete in certain areas, but there are a lot of areas where you need the help and support of others. That's where it becomes extremely important that you focus on developing your strengths and leveraging them, at the same time using your network to work around your weaknesses and taking the help of others, working with the teams. 4th, can-do attitude, extremely important. My friends, if you have been a sport person, I'm sure you will realize, particularly those who run long races, people typically who run 10 kilometers, 21 kilometers, marathon, after 2-3 kilometers, every step that you take, you feel like stopping because it's so exhausting. But after a certain time, a situation comes when it's not your body which is running, it's your mind which is driving you. So it's very important to work on developing your resilience, your perseverance, and can-do attitude. Many a times, success, and if you interview a lot of these sports people, they would tell you that success first happens in mind, and then it happens in the real ground. Next one. Recently there has been a lot of discussion around hard work versus smart work. And there has been a lot of comments in the social media about the comment which was made by Mr. Narayan Murthy, who said that Indian youth should be working probably 70 hours in a week. Well, 70 hours a week is a number. It is a indication. Let's not go by that number per se. The essence is, if you were to excel, you will excel based upon a combination of both smart work and also hard work. I'm not suggesting for a moment that it should be 70 years or 70 hours or 60 hours. I'm not prescribing any number, but what I'm emphasizing is it is not either or. Smart work alone without hard work may not take you to the levels of excellence. And therefore, you need both hard work as well as smart work. To drive home this point, I just want to take a moment and share a story of Mark Spit. You know, Mark Spit became a very famous Olympian in 1972 when he won 7 gold medals. It happened in 1972. Long story, but I'll be short. You know, he was interviewed by the media when he won 7 gold medals. People said that, Mark, you must be feeling very lucky. He got furious. How do you call me lucky? Well, you got 7 gold medals. And then he narrated his own story. He said that, look, last 4 years, how I have been training myself is every day I would go for training, and after a few hours, I'll get exhausted. When I get exhausted, I would think of my opponent, what my competitor must be doing. And I would figure out my competitor would still be practicing. He would still be training. And that would give me inspiration to go for more training. I would further continue my training, my practice. After some time, I would again get exhausted. I would again try and figure out, I would feel like I should stop. But then again, I would try and figure out what my competitor would be doing. I would again figure out that my competitor would still be practicing in his training, until I figured out in my mind that by now my competitor would have completed his practice. By now my competitor would have gone home. He would have retired to his bed and he would be resting and sleeping. And you know what I used to do then? Then I used to tell myself that until now, we both were equal. Now is the time when I can get ahead of him. And then I used to go for more practice. So my friends, particularly my young leaders, friends, excellence is not a result of chance. Sometimes it might happen by chance, but largely excellence is a result of perseverance, hard work, working on your strengths, working with people, using a lot of creativity, and most importantly, working through your can-do attitude. Friends, as long as you can utilize some of these lessons, personally, I have benefited quite a lot. I'm sure all of you would be very close to fully leveraging your potential. India is looking at future leaders like you. We need your best foot forward, and I'm sure some of these experiences would be helpful for you. With this, I wish you all the very best. And I once again acknowledge the presence of Dr. T.V. Rao, Dr. Khandelwal, Pallavi Jha, Ranjan, Dr. Krish Shanker, and I appreciate the efforts of Kolkata team. Thank you once again. All the best.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Thanks for those insightful words. Our next speaker actually needs no introduction. So if I, try to introduce him, probably I'll fall short. However, welcome to Dr. T.V. Rao as our next speaker. Dr. Rao is the founder president of National HRD Network, and also he has been the president for Indian Society for Applied Behavioral Science, ISABS, between 1986 to 89. He is the founder and chairman of TV Rao Learning System. He was the professor of IMA for over 20 years, and he has also been the professor at XLRI. Dr. Rao was a visiting faculty at ISB Hyderabad and has served as HRD advisor to Reserve Bank of India. Dr. Rao assisted the Administrative Reforms Commission in reviewing the personal management practices for civil services and also served as member of the HRM Review Committee for nationalized banks set up by the Ministry of Finance. Dr. Rao's leadership development methodology started in mid-80s using what is later termed in the USA as 360-degree feedback and HRD audit methodology leading to the HRD scorecards of today. Dr. Rao is none other than the same person about whom we have read in our college days as the father of modern HR practices. We wholeheartedly welcome Dr. Rao as the next speaker for the event. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Sri Rupa. I must congratulate the Kolkata HRD network for this great initiative of starting town hall. Normally, we are very good at starting events, but we are not very good in continuing them. And I hope you will show a new benchmark of not merely starting, but continuing and pass on the initiative to students so that they take initiative and keep doing it. Like I think students who pass every 2 years out of the postgraduate program, the HRD network office bearers also keep changing. But I think you need to work out from the beginning itself a mechanism to make sure that things continue. Just a couple of points before I give my key messages. The committee on banks, which you mentioned in introducing me, is committee called as Khandelwal committee. And you have Anil Khandelwal addressing you immediately after me. It's so fortunate to have him around and who made a lot of impact. I don't like to be called father of HRD or modern HRD and so on. I think we in India keep giving these titles. I keep saying that everyone is his or her own father of his own HRD. So every student attending this is a father or mother, or can be father and mother of his or her own HRD if you conduct yourself well and consistently learn. I would like to just mention a few of my experiences. Number one, as a student, and number two, as a professor with some of the students, and draw lessons for the future role of this particular body, which I have started as a town hall. One is when I was studying my 1 year B.Ed at Regional College of Education, Mysore. This was the year 1965-66. One fine morning on a Sunday, I think it is February 27th or so, a professor walked into my room and he said, I was in the hostel, I was youngest in the entire college. He said that, look, Veer Savarkar died and he's a great man and I'm giving you some paper cuttings. Tomorrow morning, you have to address the assembly. So next morning, I addressed the assembly, did a lot of work on Veer Savarkar. This is 28th February, if I recollect, 1966. When I addressed the assembly. Recently, about a couple of weeks back, I went to Mysore and I was very keen to look at, I think, the place from where I addressed. Now, this is almost 60 years, 58 years since I graduated from there. The memories of learning, and because you work and then you disseminate, I think each one of you will have to create your own memories in the institutions where you work. And these memories are constantly getting created. Now, if you want somebody, I was lucky to have Dr. Anand, who later became Vice Chancellor of Northeast Hill University, and he's no more. Most of my professors those years are no more. I think he was responsible for creating this kind of an experience for me. But not all are lucky to have that. And my own experience at IIM Ahmedabad shows that it need not always be professors who would create these experiences. When I was PGP chairman, I remember most of the time students used to complain, faculty here have no time to interact with students. So as PGP chairman, I created a new mechanism where dorm-based guidance groups, every week on a Saturday evening, a professor is allocated to each dorm or 2 professors, and there'll be a group of students who are supposed to meet the professor, clarify any questions they have, doubts they have. So these are the dorm-based student clarification, coaching, counseling kind of groups. 3 months after I created, I was conducting a survey and I discovered in 90% of the cases that meetings were not taking place. Students were not interested. Students were not coming and so on. I was very curious because we were not monitoring. It's a response to the student complaint. Faculty here don't interact. By chance, those days, when you travel in Bombay, Indian Airlines used to have a accommodation where you stay overnight. I happened to stay in a overnight restroom, which is to be shared sometimes when there are not enough people. And I happened to share the room with the representative, the institute representative, student representative, one Mr. Gupta. And I asked him out of curiosity, what is it that this whole thing is not working? Because you chaps wanted the faculty to interact with you. But when we got the faculty to come to your dorms, apparently you are behaving as though you don't want the faculty. His response was, sir, you should have been sensitive. What students say and what they really wish are different. Students say faculty interaction, but they really think they don't want interaction because in the dorms, faculty visiting us means it is invading into our privacy and we don't want the privacy to be. What an opportunity lost for the students, I think, if you want the students to interact. Now, I contrast this with some of the students at IIM Ahmedabad who have always taken whatever work we gave them very seriously. For example, I used to get people to write their stories about their own self. Who am I? This is a very famous, I'm sure some of you may be using it. And I'm told recently, not recently, about 11 years back, Raghuram Rajan, when he was addressing the alumni at Bombay, IIM alumni, said that I still cherish the class of Professor T.V. Rao when he asked me to write, who am I? And at that time, I have written that one of my aspirations is to become the governor of Reserve Bank. In 1988, very interesting, a student who took an assignment seriously, had aspirations, and still remembers. I didn't attend that, and out of curiosity, I wrote to Raghuram Rajan asking, is this true? And then I noticed his wife also happened to be a student of my class on a new course I started on how to manage your formative years. Very promptly, Raghuram replied, saying that both me and my wife fondly remember even today your sessions and so on. I think that is how you enjoy the class, you take it to your heart, you attend the thing and then start working on it, you enjoy. And that is why I think when Narayan Murthy says, I don't know if some of you have heard him last night, both Narayan Murthy and Sudha Murthy were on the TV. They are talking about this 70-hour work about which Prem Singh has mentioned. I think he says, when you enjoy work, you don't count hours. A mother who is working 24/7 all the time doesn't count hours because she enjoys work. She feels that that is her duty. And Murthy was saying that when he was a student, he was receiving scholarships. So did I. I still remember my school fee used to be 3 rupees 20 paise per month. And I had to pay only half of it, 1 rupee 60 paise. So that was the scholarship that was given. It was a great scholarship. There's nothing it appears to you. Murthy was saying last night, this is what we owe to the country. It is these scholarships which made us whatever we are. And therefore, we are grateful. We want to work hard because there's still India is filled with poverty. And we want to make sure that we can contribute to the, like this I can count. I mean, I still remember people like Sanjeev Bikhchandani, who still remembers my class on internal locus of control. Or Srijan Pal Singh, whom you may have heard, he is very active in LinkedIn. He worked with Dr. Abdul Kalam. I think he was with him during his last hours at Shillong. Srijan Pal continues the legacy of Dr. Abdul Kalam by doing interesting work on Purva and so on. He used to be in my class on talent management. He used to continuously give me feedback, argue with why some assignments are not good, some assignments are, and took such an active kind of a role. So what do all this mean? It means institutions are phenomenal opportunities, education institutions, if you only know how to use. And do not always depend on faculty to create these experiences. I think if you enjoy learning, that means you attend to class. Recently, I was talking to a student who is topper in the banking and financial services course at the Goa Institute of Management. I was asked the professors to name someone. When they named him, I talked to him. He said, you know, he comes from a very ordinary town in Gujarat, a small town called Vapi. And he had parents who were doing cement business. He says, I love my parents. And this is very important to respect your elders. And he says that this is what I have learned from my parents, to work hard, take classes seriously. He says, I don't miss any class. I sit, whether it is boring or not. I think I try to grasp as much as possible from that. And don't miss any assignment. I do the project work well. And as a result, I think this culture he continued to have in his summer placement, and he was offered placement. So now he says, I'm using the time to be a member of the placement committee and helping others. And I was very surprised when he said, Professor Rao, what I enjoy most, I enjoy interacting with my classmates. And as I interact with them, I discover some of them don't even bother to call their parents once in a while. They are living in a far-off place. Parents have taken time to educate them. But, the parents are waiting for a call. Maybe once a week, please call them. I enjoy the most by talking to them and getting them to make calls to their parents. And I see the kind of a smile. I can imagine the smile on the parent face and so on. Now, I'm saying this to say, I think when you look at student life, it's a wonderful life. It is not only from the class, it is outside the class. And the other thing some of the students mentioned was they enjoy most of the projects. Now, projects need not always be given by the faculty. You can create your own kind of projects. In our book, which we wrote on Leaders in the Making, which Arvind Agarwal and I wrote, many of the students are from XLRI, IIMs, and other institutions have talked of how interesting projects like working with the beggars, working with the union representatives, interviewing them, have been given to them, and then they made the great use of all this. So my message to you is that institutions are excellent places where you can learn a lot. And often people start asking this question about age. Age is a number. I think age is a great resource. I think of all the resources we have, age is wonderful, because when you are in your 18, 19, 20, what an energy you have, what a restlessness you have, what an opportunity you have. You can run, you can do a whole lot of things. I think you can, that's a great resource you have. When you are in your middle age, you have already experienced challenges. I think you are carrying experiences with you. And when you are a little older, the wisdom that you have, that is the resource you have. So for me, age is a resource. Age is a source of inspiration for us, all of us. And I think at your age, you should be learning from your teachers, from your seniors, also from your juniors, who probably are much more technology savvy and so on. So get the best out of your institution. And the last point I like to make at this point of time, when I was asked to address you, the theme that was given to me is, please tell us what should be the role of HRD network. Now, I have said all this so far to create a role for HRD network. I think the job of HRD network, if whether it is a student body, I would strongly suggest that in each of your institutions, there should be a student chapter of HRD. You call it network or whatever you want to call it. And you should be self-organizing. You should be creating project opportunities. You should be discussing what happens in the class. You should be inviting people like those whom you are listening today to keep coming and interact with you, visiting organizations, whether it is an industry, not-for-profit organization, or a government body, and so on. So the role of the HRD network for students is to create a learning climate in every institution. I think as Prem Singh said, and as everyone says, today we have almost about 600 million youth, maybe more, 600 million youth. If each one of them become like Narayan Murthy, each one of them become like Abdul Kalam. Now, I don't want to, some of you may think that I am simply talking from air. No, I'm not talking from air, because I still remember the day, 1973, December. I just joined IIM Ahmedabad, and curfew time. We only had about a 2 hours relaxation. I was staying outside the campus. In the evening, one of my another colleague working at IIM Ahmedabad, T.P. Ramarao, he was staying outside. And we normally used to have tea outside. My family didn't join me at the time. So we came out to go to a nearby tea stall, and then he introduced a young man. He said, "This is Mr. Murthy, who was a programmer here. He left about a year ago. He has come back just to visit." I could never believe the gentleman whom I was meeting in 1973 December for a cup of tea outside IIM Ahmedabad is going to be a person who made many people millionaires. So when I say you don't know if there is a Narayan Murthy in you or Abdul Kalam in you, I mean it. You have to discover. But you will be wasting your time if you are not using an institution, your teachers, your colleagues, your life. I think every minute is important. Every minute is a learning experience. This is the role of network. How do we as a body keep facilitating learning from each other? That is the purpose with which we are formed. And I hope the student chapters will set some examples for the National HRD Network, because we have had some very interesting history in HRD Network. Some chapters are very active during a particular period of time and the leader is good, but immediately for the next 2-3 years, the chapter is dead. Again, somebody has to keep. I hope this does not happen. In many of the student activities, I found there is continuity, there is stability, there is innovation, and they keep building it up. My expectation from the HRD network and the town hall which you are starting today is that you will set new standards with the student initiative and create a learning culture in your educational institutions. If you do that for yourself, you will continue to be a great HR person. As I said, it doesn't matter whether you are in finance, whether you are in marketing, whether you are in production, logistics, you are your own HRD manager. Do not rely on somebody who is designated as HRD to help you to develop. You have to develop yourself. And this is what will be the role of the HRD network managed by students and so on. I want to thank Kolkata chapter. I want to thank you for your patient listening. It's difficult for a professor to condense whatever he wants to say in 15-20 minutes. So pardon me if I have exceeded my time. Wish you all the best. Have fun and learn as much as possible to be a Kalam or Murthy or Anil Khandelwal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rao. It was indeed an honor to listen from you. And now I move forward in welcoming our distinguished speaker, Dr. Anil Kumar Khandelwal. Dr. Khandelwal, a PhD in management, is a well-known transformational leader of India who is credited with the transformation of one of the largest public sector bank, Bank of Baroda, in just 3 years' time. The government of India appointed him as a member of the first bank's board bureau, which selected non-executive chairmen and full-time directors of public sector banks and financial institutions. He also chaired a committee on HR in public sector banks, popularly known as the Khandelwal Committee, about which Dr. Rao spoke just a while back. He is a recipient of 3 Lifetime Achievement Awards for leadership from Asian Banker Singapore, National HRD Network, and Dr. Pritam Singh Foundation. Economic Times has rated him among the top 100 most powerful CEOs of India consecutively for 3 years. He has also been a senior strategic advisor to global consulting firms like Accenture, Booz and Company, Hewitt, and KPMG. He has been an international keynote speaker on transformational leadership and governance in many global and national conferences. He has extensively written on leadership and governance issues in the corporations. I wholeheartedly welcome Dr. Khandelwal to keep his points of view today in this session. Over to you, sir. Sir, you are on mute.
First of all, I am
Yes, sir.
extremely grateful to Calcutta chapter for giving me this opportunity. I have emotional connect with Calcutta. I like to share with you that Calcutta is the place which gave me opportunities to exercise my human resource development skills to turn around business, and that ultimately led and gave me recognition to eventually becoming chairman and managing director of two large banks. So I owe it to Calcutta, although when I was transferred, and as you know, in 90s and 80s, going to Calcutta was considered in organizations as a punishment posting. So you cried when you went to Calcutta, and I cried when I returned from Calcutta, because it's such a wonderful place, city of joy, and the people are so good, vibrant. So this is the reason that I love Calcutta, and I'm very happy to interact with the students in Calcutta. So when the chapter, and I also acknowledge the presence of my mentor and titan, Professor T.V. Rao, whose first seminar in IIM I attended in IIMA in 1978. And that led me to HRD, from Industrial Relations and Personnel Management. It led me to Human Resource Development. I acknowledge his presence. I have also acknowledged the presence of Mr. Prem Singh, National President of National HRD Network, and other panel members, Dr. Krish Shanker and Madam Pallavi, Ranjan Banerjee, chairman of the chapter, and others. So when they asked me to share my experience of industry with the student, I said, I'm not the qualified person because I'm out of date as far as industry is concerned as to what they are looking for, what they want. So I can share my thoughts on self-leadership, because everyone today talks that we should become future leaders of India. And I think Mr. Prem Singh, in a very, very illuminating note, he has shared what is in store for people now to exercise their leadership. And similarly, Professor T.V. Rao has very brilliantly shared as to how the leadership is not something that you get elsewhere. You get in your own institutions, you can learn. I would like to share that today you have many opportunities. Good old days, we used to run to libraries and here and there. Now Google itself is a big library. We don't have to go anywhere now. Second thing, and most important thing, is that your organization, academic institutions, can only help you to a degree, which I say around 10%, in becoming a leader. The real leadership lessons are learned on daily basis in our own organizations. When I joined in 1971, 52 years back in a bank's branch on training as a probationary officer, it was a very turbulent during trade unions and whatnot. And one day, there was a major agitation, and we requested our branch manager to go from the back gate, because on the front gate, there are hordes of agitating militant union leaders. We understand there could be some violence. And the manager decided to go only from the front gate. And that is the day I learned what it means to lead from the front. Now, I don't have to read a chapter or go to some academic institution to learn what is leading from the front. I experienced, and I also saw its impact on the morale of people. We were a demoralized lot, officers, and how suddenly each one of us. So you can see the spark, the illumination of leadership on daily basis around you. The second episode, which I distinctly remember, was that I was quite, because I came from engineering and I didn't adjust as to what is happening in that broken atmosphere. So out of frustration, one day I wrote to Chief of Personnel that I have not been given any training. I have lost interest and I propose to resign and what not. I can't now remember the exact language, but it is a language of frustration. And everyone said, do you expect any reply? It was considered a sacrilege at that time. If you write to top management, you could lose your job. Those were the days. After 10th day, a reply comes from chief of personnel. And believe me, the reply was so focused, pointed, no sermons, that in your letter, dear Mr. Khandelwal, in your letter, you have raised following issues. And our reply, my reply, pair-wise reply is this, and he solved all my problems. I wrote about no induction training. He arranged in Banks Staff College. I wrote there is no job rotation. He deputed regional manager to ensure I am job rotated. That is the day I retained my job, and that is the day I learned the value of responsiveness. Last 52 years, I have replied to every single letter of a customer and employees, and I have seen its dramatic impact. I don't think I could have learned this from a book, which said that it is good to be a good listener. One should always reply to letters. When you experience, and when you personally experience, similarly, I also learned with many hurts and bruises, personally experienced, and that tells you why you should not be like that, why you should not be causing hurts and bruises to people. The point I'm saying, it is not this versus that. Self-leadership is that it is under your control. Most of the time people say, I have not been sent to a training program by my organization. Nobody is developing me, my organization. Sorry, my experience is that this is a responsibility for the individual. Gandhiji, Nelson Mandela, Abdul Kalam did not go to a school to learn leadership, I can assure you. If you look at the recent book, a couple of years back, by Pfeiffer of Stanford University, the title of the book is The Leadership Bullshit. He has written, this is a $300 billion leadership industry, which is total waste of money. He's a Stanford professor, very well known in his writing. It doesn't take you any far. It is important, provided you are carving your own leadership, then it can buttress, then it can help you. This is something like, if my self-development and self-leadership, I expect someone to develop, it is something like asking my doctor to go on morning walk on my behalf so that my health improves. So leadership is deployment of the self for building the self. Other things, academic institutions, National HRD network, they can all help you. So my friends, young students, my suggestion would be to take charge of yourself. To take charge of yourself and learn from every situation. In leadership, if somebody asked me the other day, somebody asked me, what is the most important aspect of leadership? I said, building credibility, which is also incidentally, international research has revealed credibility is number one, and credibility is removing saying-doing gap. Imagine our bosses who conducted themselves with least gap on saying and doing, and how we admire them. But tell me something. I learned this lesson in my childhood when my mother daily uttered in the morning a verse from Ramcharitmanas and said, Raghukul Reet Sada Chalai, Pran Jaye Par Vachan Na Jaye. The meaning was that this is the dictum of God, that you must always fulfill the promise given. And again, I can promise you, every day I think, did I make a promise to someone? Did I say even informally assured someone to do something? Have I done? This has kept me going. My friends, leadership is hierarchy neutral. You don't become a leader when you become managing director or you become general manager. I have seen 3 levels below me. People were better leaders than I was. And I learned a lot from them. A lot from them. I thought always that I was impulsive. And a person who was 3, 4 levels below me inspired from his sobriety, from his control of emotions. And he was virtually a remote mentor to me. So therefore, my young colleagues, I want to tell you that please do not be led by some myths that you have to be somebody to start your journey in leadership. There was a professor, Christinen, in Harvard. And on the last day, he used to take a session. How will you measure success of your life? And he used to say 3 things. That after all Harvard MBA, after all training and other things, there are 3 tests. 1, will you be a happy soul in terms of your progress? 2nd, will your relationship with family, children be good? And the last, which in all seriousness he made that, was, will you be able to avoid going to jail? And if you see, and he gave examples that how many Rhodes scholars and some of the highly qualified people from academic institutions have gone into the other path and eventually, face problems. So the point is this: if you take charge right from now, whether you are a law student, MBA student, you are a commerce graduate, science graduate, the important thing is, what is your strategy of life? We don't even think about it because immediately after passing, we look for a job, nothing wrong. Getting a job is merely a passport to get into industry. By our conduct and behavior and success, we have to earn daily visa. Even after 10 years of service, if a manager indulges in something, that means he is not able to renew his visa. We have to virtually daily renew our visa. I would like to next 5 minutes like to share with you that I have undergone a major role transition from human resource to business responsibility, and it came as a shock to me. Once again, I was virtually thinking that this is a catastrophe in my career, and I don't think I can go to business at this stage of my life. But then I reflected as to what is the credo of HR. The credo is learning to learn is our credo. So how can I run away? And I decided to go to banking operations without any preparation. I had to compete with people with 30 years experience. And my first ever job was the zonal manager in UP and then Calcutta. Rest is a history, my book, Dare to Lead. Those who are interested, they can go through my career there. The important thing was that I followed just 5 principles. 1, curiosity. Curiosity to learn not only technical knowledge, curiosity to learn the behavior, why particular behavior is taking place. An example of this that in Calcutta, and everyone knows that those days They were a very, very strong unionism, militant unionism. But you can't say that the people are bad or, the unions will not permit. I was curious why it is so and engaged in endless dialogues with trade unions. And these endless dialogues convinced me that there is an equal degree of apathy within management, because there is a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy that unions are bad here, they are militant. So management also treated Calcutta as an amputed leg in the corporate body. Nobody would visit Calcutta. Everyone will come in the morning, run away in the evening. Nobody would have dialogue with them. And I engaged in the dialogue, and I found all that they were talking was not wrong. So first thing we did was confidence building measures. And then I realized that yes, we can do business with them. We set up a business development committee. And could you imagine that a place like Calcutta, we involved unions in business development, business expansion, branch expansion, eventually the turnaround of a very difficult place. And I can tell you, without having adequate experience, my Calcutta experience brought me into the limelight with the government of India, regulators, and eventually it carved out a place for me in the executive cadre. But I had never planned that I would be somebody. In fact, most people and most my colleagues had written my premature funeral because I thought that I will fail there. People thought I will fail there. So the point is curiosity and engagement. Relentless engagement to search the meaning of current reality. The other thing I engaged with open mind, that we need to start in a problem situation on a clean slate. We can take input, but we need to start on a clean slate. Clean slate. And once we start on clean slate, miracles happen. The other thing, as I said earlier, is people watch us for our words, for our promises, for our credibility. You don't have to learn 20 leadership traits. If you ask me, for building our self-leadership, 3 things that I have focused is all the time is: 1, credibility. 2nd, being reflective practitioner. Every day, half an hour, wherever I am, whichever corner of the world, I reflect on myself. I reflected on my impulsiveness. I reflected on my behavior. I reflected me that why certain things have gone right and why certain things have gone wrong, what we can learn from them. A very systematic process of reflection. And it has helped me a great deal to continuously work on the self. As you know, friends, that the tool of a musician is a harmonium. The tool of a painter is canvas and brush. The tool of the leader is the self. Unless we work on the self, there is no garden path to leadership. You can't learn leadership from books, I can assure you. That is my experience. Either you learn by observation or you learn by disciplined practice. Lastly, I would say, and I think for students, it is extremely important, most important, to build communication ability, that you can reach out, you can articulate what is in your mind, you can make meaning out of what you are articulating. This also comes by practice, because most people in India come like I came, where when I was first 10-year-old, I learnt ABCD. Everyone is not convent educated in our country. Everyone does not get great education. But by disciplined practice, one can really improve the communication skills. For leadership, it's very important for every young man and woman. But the dysfunctional side of communication is the kind of communication we find on social media today, the kind of slangs that we find today, the kind of indecency that we find in communication today. The communication that I'm talking is communication that can build relationships, communication that can hold relationships, communication that communicates who you are. Young people, and I'm sure National HRD Network, especially Kolkata chapter, can do wonders in terms of developing some of these skills. Finally, I would say that please decide right now, what is your purpose? Purpose will decide how are you developing your leadership. If the purpose is materialistic, pure, overnight glory, but if you know the consequences of that, there are many examples. You can also succeed, there is no doubt. Many people make it to the top by that, that's fine. But if your purpose is principled leadership, I can assure you, most people think they don't work. I can assure you it does work. And therefore, I would submit that pain and humiliation is part of leadership development. If you have not experienced pain, if you have not experienced hurt, bruises, humiliation, and you have not come back with renewed vigor, that would say that would suggest that you are fragile. So how do you become anti-fragile? It's very important to become anti-fragile. And that would mean a great degree of self-confidence. And all these things do not come overnight, I can tell you. We are all people in making all the time. We are work in progress all the time. Leadership is not the Victoria terminus of excellence, I can tell you. We are all on the running train of leadership. And we daily make mistakes within leadership. The only thing is, if we are reflective practitioners, it puts us in touch with ourselves. It helps us to take responsibility. It helps us to build accountability. And it is a process. Once it comes into practice, like going to a gym every day, you don't build your muscles overnight. When Usain Bolt became Olympian, it is several years of running and doing for 2 minutes performance. Ultimately, it is that 2-minute performance that comes. And therefore, building self-leadership is hard work, taking charge of oneself, fighting with oneself. It does not mean that you don't enjoy your life. So how do you create that balance? And if I can say that if there is one thing now that youngsters can do is to be conscious of return on their time. That how do you plan your time, that you get the best of your time, and creating a magical 25th hour for self-learning. Learning and growth, in spite of being very busy in technology world, is magical 25th hour. How do you develop that Because as I said, that our doctors can't do morning walk to keep us healthy. In order to remain healthy, we need to go to gym. And in order to become a great leader, we need to practice in the gym of leadership. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much for those practical insights, sir. It was wonderful listening to you. And yes, as we grow, we understand the importance and appreciate the need of self leadership more and more. Thanks a lot. Uh, Extremely practical insights, sir. I would next introduce our president of the National HRD Network Kolkata chapter, Mr. Ranjan Banerjee, under whose leadership this entire team is working towards excellence. Mr. Banerjee is a certified coach. He has worked in organizations like Saregama India Limited, Vodafone, Aditya Birla Domestic Textile Business, Epsilon Carbon, and presently he is holding the position of Group HR Head for Berger Paints. I would request Mr. Banerjee to please, unmute and share your words about the NHRD Kolkata chapter.
Thank you, Shirupa. I hope I'm audible.
Sir, you are audible, but just check your video, sir. We cannot see you.
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
I'm
yes, sir.
traveling, so there would be a bit of disturbance, I guess. But first of all, let me thank Professor T.V. Rao, Dr. Anil Khandelwal, Dr. Prem Singh, and of course, Krish Shanker for being here and for taking time out to share their experiences with our young budding leaders of tomorrow. I have two pieces to talk about. Number one, uh, it is important for young leaders to practice and believe in curiosity. And the more curious you are, the more questions you ask. And the more questions you ask, the more answers you get. And that goes on. That's one. Number two, a key component of a good leader and a key quality of a good leader increasingly in the years ahead as the world becomes more and more complex is empathy. So how empathetic are we and how do we practice empathy? And how do we build the culture of empathy in the organization? I think will be the true test of a leader in the years going ahead. And I think that will definitely impact the results of the business and the long-term sustainability of the organization. With these few words, I would also like to thank all the participants, the young minds who've come in here. And I would urge you to continuously learn and continuously share. And organizations across the globe are now looking up to younger minds to come in and challenge the status quo. So that when you challenge the status quo and you question everything that is happening within an organization, the organizations get better. And the organizations also turn into learning organizations and quickly agile and adaptable organizations. The second thing is that I would definitely urge my young friends to give in their outside in perspectives because they're coming from a different generation. And I think in the next 5 to 6 years from today, 40% of our workforce globally will constitute the Gen Z. And I think they will bring in great perspectives and great knowledge and insights into the way businesses should run and how responsible should we be as businesses globally. With these few words, I would also now move on to the next issue, that next very important matter that I would like to bring to everybody's notice. That is Kolkata. Your Kolkata chapter is going to host the next national conference of the National HRD Network. This is an annual conference and it's coming back to Kolkata after 11 years. I would urge each one of you the distinguished panel members, as well as all the participants, young minds, to definitely plan your travel to Kolkata, because 5th and 6th of April are the dates you should save. We will, of course, launch a communication blitzkrieg, but I would request you all to save the date 5th and 6th of April 2024 at Taj Tal Kutir, Kolkata. And we get to envision the future of leadership and the future of HR beyond tomorrow. And that's the theme. So with these few words, I would like to hand the baton back to Sri Rupa, who will take the rest of the session forward. So thank you so much and look forward to meeting all of you. Thank you, Sri Rupa. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I have a request to the student members, the faculties, and other members in the audience who are watching this session. If you have any query to any of our speaker, you may please post your query through the chat, the Zoom chat box, and we will have a Q&A session and we can address your queries then. I would now introduce our next speaker, Dr. Krish Shanker. Dr. Shankar has served as National President for NHRD Network. He is an alumni of XLRI Jamshedpur, Aston Business School and Stanford University. He was associated with organizations like Aisha Tower, Unilever in global roles, Bharti Airtel, Philips, and Infosys. At present, he is associated with a non-profit organization that facilitates the development of behavioral and social skills in the underprivileged youths with a view to enable them to realize their potential and enhance their employability. I would now request Dr. Shankar to share his points in shaping up the career of the young leaders of tomorrow. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Shrirupa. Fantastic. Great to meet you all here. And after hearing, luminaries like Mr. Khandelwal, who gave a brilliant exposition of leadership, I don't know what I can say. We've had Dr. T.V. Rao and Mr. Khandelwal who've given some fantastic kind of inputs. I don't think there's much that people like me can say. But what I'll try and do is to give, in a way, I would say 3 concepts, that I think I have found useful. And 3 concepts that I think as young people, as you enter the workforce, you got to keep in mind. And this is basically my own learning, because when I joined as a young kind of a trainee, working in many organizations, I struggled initially. But I think with the help of my mentors and other leaders that I've worked with, I tried and built my career through it. And here are those 3 concepts that I think will help any young person thinking about their career. I think the first one is what I would like to say: career is like a DNA of 2 strands. There are 2 strands of DNA that really make up your career. One strand of DNA is what I call is your CV. What are the jobs that you're doing? What are the skills that you have? So that is like, yes, you start off as an area sales manager, you do a brand manager, you do a marketing manager, you grow so that is your CV. It tells you the jobs that you do, your skills. So that's one part of your career. That's one of the strands of the career DNA. The second strand of the career DNA is what I call is your leadership brand. What do people think about you? What do people talk about you when you're not there? What impact are you having on people? What is your legacy as a leader? And that is another one, that is the other strand. Now, early on in your career, what happens, at least in the first 15 years, the CV strand, the jobs that you do get more prominence. But as you go to the second half of your career, then people forget the CV. They look at what you are. What is your leadership brand? What are you as a leader? What impact are you having on your teams? So that becomes much more important. But to build that, you got to work in it from the beginning. You got to work on it from the beginning. It doesn't come automatically. It becomes very important as you go forward, but start putting the foundations from the beginning. So therefore, as a young professional, keep these two in mind. There is a focus on the kind of jobs that you do, but there's also a focus on building your leadership brand. What are you as a person? Yeah. And think about it yourself. And Mr. Khandelwal gave a very fantastic thing about being reflected. But I think all of us have to say, okay, what are those one or two things we are really good at? What is our edge? And then you strengthen it and build it. And what are one or two other things that you want to really kind of, build so that you're more successful? Because your leadership brand is important, because that's going to help you in the second half of your career, because that's the only thing people will look at. So focus on your career in terms of the jobs that you do, and ensure that you have a mix of jobs, build that career, but also in the background, work on what are you as a leader and build that, because this strand of both the DNAs will actually help you plan your career in the long term. Yeah. So that's the first thing that I think we got to keep in mind. The second point that I want to talk about is when I meet young people, and I meet a lot of young engineers, MBA, and they say, how do I build my career? What are the kind of steps to it? And I think, a career is like, it's not easy, it takes time to build. We are not, and there is no one button or two buttons. And one other part is luck is another important part. Sometimes you got to be in the right place at the right time. That's also important. So we should not discount it. All those come together in your career. But to work on it consciously, I have just three things that you can do to build your career. What I call as a framework of AOC. Yeah? So it's a triangle of AOC. It's like a virtuous triangle of these three things. So what is A? A is your ambition. Yeah. And you've got to see, how do you keep looking at your ambition? I mean, you don't have to look at an ambition saying, I want to be CEO of a company. No need. But have an ambition of what is it that you want to achieve. Look at it 3 to 4 years and say, listen, I want to do these things. So take your ambition step by step, but an ambition is important. If you don't have an ambition, that doesn't fuel the rest of the thing. Yes. So there is an ambition to achieve something, ambition to kind of, create something, an ambition to kind of, make a name for yourself. So that's very important. So that gives you the energy for your career. Yeah. So look at your ambition. And again, by ambition, I'm not looking at positions, etc. They could also be, but look at things 3 to 5 year horizon and set down in terms of what is it that you want to really be there, and raise the bar for yourself. The second thing that I say is O is opportunities. Once you've got your ambition, you've got to expand your opportunities. Now, just by setting ambitions, you will not grow in your career. You got to build and look for those opportunities. The world today is changing very fast. Yeah. And these opportunities all across. But if you're not looking for them, they will run away. Yeah. Somebody said, we create our own luck. And how do we create our own luck? We create our own luck by looking for these opportunities and being active. And that's how opportunities come to you. So how do you look for these opportunities? I think there are 3 or 4 ways to do it. One, I think, is mentoring, or having mentors is a very good way. Yeah. So think about how you can connect with 3 or 4, 5 people who could be your mentors, talk to them. Don't look for people within your own function or organization. Look around, join networks like the NHRD network and many other networks. So you go and meet new people, expand your thing. Within organizations, it's always good to really go talk to what other businesses are doing. So I think it's important for you to really expand, because that way you will learn, you'll meet new people, you will learn, and you'll see what's happening. Second is jump at opportunities. One of the things that I've seen that high potential people do is they look for opportunities to do something more. See, we all have, let's say, 8 hours of work. But if you take a project and say, listen, I want to learn and do something, I want to contribute to the company, that will help you in the long term. Yeah, it may be something you have to do beyond your normal working hours, but that's something that will help you over time. Yeah. So look for opportunities to be part of projects, part of, doing things, even organizing things in your company or organization or whatever it is. So create your own kind of plethora of opportunities for you to learn, for you to meet people, for you to network, for you to have, other leaders that you can talk to. Yeah. So build those opportunities. And the third is your capabilities. C. So A is ambition. O is opportunities, expanding opportunities. And C is building your own capabilities. I think in this is very important, because what happens nowadays is half-lives of career are very short. Yeah. What people have learned in 5 years, they'll become redundant. In the tech field, yes, 4 to 5 years, whatever you've learned is gone because some new things are coming. Whatever you studied in your management schools, there are some things that will be completely irrelevant in 5 years. So you got to keep learning. You got to start saying, okay, what are those things that I want to build? Identify the areas that you think are interesting for you and start building those new capabilities. And capabilities, I don't mean just the functional bit, but also you as a leader, start thinking about what is it. I think Mr. Khandelwal gave very, very great exposition of how you could build it. Be reflective, dirty your hands, go be in the thing. One of my leaders used to say that you got to be in the dance. Don't watch from the balcony, but be in the dance. Be there with the crowd so you learn what's happening. Yeah. And the famous Japanese saying is, whenever there's a problem, go to the site of the problem, see what is there, meet people, and that's how you kind of build. You understand firsthand. So these are basic principles, but I think they've always stood people in very good stead. Yeah, being on the job, understanding, working with your hands, doing things yourself. One of the things that many of our great leaders did, that they always said, listen, one day a month, I'll go to the sales team. I'll just work with the sales team, or I'll go to a factory. I'll be looking at workers, talk to them, and work with them. So going through these things really help you pick things. So always look to build your capabilities. Look at what is new and how you can refresh yourself, stay ahead of it. But always look for these opportunities of going to the locations, going to the front line and learning from people. Yeah. So that's the three, the AOC. So I've spoken to you about the DNA of career, the CV plus the leadership brand. So keep both going. The AOC, which is
Sorry, looks like somehow we have missed Dr. Shankar, probably certain technology glitch. Rajiv, if you can please confirm.
Yes,
It's
there
a
is
power
some
cut,
technology.
Nirupa.
It's a power
I
cut, I
think
guess.
it's a power cut, probably
Okay,
the
so
problem.
yes, so certain technology glitch, and yes, we all understand that. Probably Dr. Shankar was almost towards the verge of winding up his speech, where he was just summarizing on the AOC that he was talking about. So we will move on. Our next esteemed speaker is Miss Pallavi Tyagi, and it gives me immense pleasure and pride to introduce Ms. Tyagi, who is an alumni of University of California Berkeley High School of Business and Harvard Business School. She has held significant positions in Apollo Tires, Procter & Gamble, DuPont in global roles, and presently working with Capgemini as EVP and Group Head of People Experience and Future of Work, operating from France. With more than 25 years of experience in the domain of human resource, her current role spans global responsibilities for 300,000 plus employees for people experience from hire to retire, future of work, which includes flexible working, Gen AI for HR, sustainability for HR, DE&I and culture, employee engagement and well-being, and organization design. Global sponsor. She is also a global sponsor for HR technology and processes for HR transformation. It's quite an early hour at France now. Thanks a lot for joining with us, Ms. Tyagi. Over to you for your valuable insights.
Thank you so much, and
Thank you.
pleasure to be here. Bonjour, everyone, and thank you so much, Dr. Singh and Avajit, for your kind invitation. Whatever time of the hour, I would definitely would have joined for this, especially with students. I really like to interact with the young upcoming talent. Because that's where the future lies, and that's the strength of India as well. So I will talk about future of work and I'll try and demystify it, but I can tell you one thing, that there is work happening in all organizations, academic organizations, and it's almost like, do we have a crystal ball of how the future would look like? It's still shaping up. We all know that Gen AI took us by storm this year, and we perhaps have more coming in the years that we may not be aware of or are not aware of right now. If I look at future of work, I would put it in almost like 5 categories. They are a no-brainer: work, worker, workplace, workforce, and ecosystem. And especially for yourselves, those who have joined in today, one must understand that there is a change which is happening on how we are doing work. And I especially talk about work. There is an evolution of what the work would look like and how it would get done as well, right? So the what and the why are changing, and so is the how for work. It's shaping up, and technology is the one which is leading it, and we'll talk about it in a short while. When it comes to workplace, it's about flexibility. And I'm sure all of us understand what flexibility is. With pandemic and now pre-pandemic times, organizations are finding their way with flexibility. Some are looking at hybrid, some remote, some combination of the two, some return back to workplace, depending on what the work looks like for their organization. And that again is evolving as we speak. So there is no one line or one blueprint that one can say one follows. And it is also dependent on what the workforce wants. And this is where I'll spend a minute here, and then I'll move into more details around future of work. The workforce and the ecosystem are changing. The contract between the employer and the employee are changing. It's not necessarily, and I can definitely talk about when we started out to work. The attempt was always to have, permanent employment contracts with the place that you worked in. Today, it's a different requirement for different set of people depending on what they are looking at from their life. And as organizations are adapting contracts, are adapting the way to work as well, depending on what the workforce for themselves individually would need. And we will find that as we will go along, that will evolve, that will help evolve policies at workplace, and will also evolve as countries will adapt their own employment policies, their labor policies as well, depending on the nature of the workforce that will keep growing with times to come. Now, future of work is not really a distant reality. We all know, and especially yourselves who are here today, you are the ones who are most adept at looking at advancements in automation. We know about artificial intelligence and the digital technologies which are reshaping the fabric of our professional lives. Technology is not a secret, right? That it's revolutionizing the workplace, and pandemic definitely has accelerated maybe decades of what would have come on later. So we're looking at artificial intelligence, we are looking automation, and we are looking at augmented reality. Now, what happens with this technology is that it will boost productivity, and it will definitely potentially change what we spoke about starting with on how the jobs are done or how the work will look like. So, what will become a new norm, which has already become a new norm actually, is remote work and digital collaboration tools. And as you will go along in your careers, as you will go along with your academic interest, it is extremely important to understand how that interface happens and make it work for you individually as well. The second crucial trend which is coming forward is going to be recognition, right? A little bit of rewards and recognition as well. Traditional modes of compensation are giving way, and they are becoming more flexible and more holistic in its nature. What we find is that as our colleagues are looking at, as our workforce is looking at remote work, it's not just about salary, it's about having flexibility, having work-life balance, and meaningful work. And also, as we have seen with pandemic and post-pandemic, it's become extremely important to focus on well-being and mental health. Last but not the least, and I'll not spend much time on it, it's a more HR jargon, the organization structure. That's a trend which is changing as well. So what were rigid hierarchies in the past, and especially the group that we have over here, you yourselves will be leading forward on how they will give the rigid hierarchical structures will give way to more agile organizations. More and more, it is about how work gets done with teams coming together in an agile fashion and not necessarily determined by structure as well. So, this will also give different approaches to management and decision making. And moreover, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are pushing organizations to reevaluate structures and becoming more inclusive and representative in their nature. Now, why diversity and inclusion is important is not just because of what it stands for itself, but the fact that as you're servicing clients, and let me give you an example, and this was a study which was done by Berkeley on AI, and it would be interesting if you haven't heard about it. AI is all about the data structure which is fed into it and the output that comes from it, right? Now, for the data that goes into AI, there would be certain decisions that might get taken. So, in the Los Angeles area, there was data which was picked up on housing loans being taken and those who took those housing loans. And what was found out as a study was that we had Hispanics and Asians and African Americans, because they could not negotiate better home loan rates, were paying higher interest rates on the housing that they had taken. Now, you need to remove the bias when these decision making is happening. That's the first thing. And then as data is fed into AI, it is extremely important to make sure that those biases are removed. And if you have a team working which is more diverse in representation, who are building those AI tools, you will have more inclusive output results as well. So it's extremely important to look at diversity and inclusion more as a business reality now, internally as well. And when we look at externally focusing on our clients as to how we are better able to understand decision making at the client's end, and then be able to build back products and services that our own organizations are servicing. Now, how does that impact, the audience that we have here, the participants that we have here? By virtue of the fact that this is India, we have diverse backgrounds. We come together for our education. We study together in a classroom, which I think is one of the most focused inputs that comes or would come in a couple of hours together. We learn to build that diversity perspective and inclusive nature, even though we may not understand. Bringing that perspective as you get to work, as you build your own careers, as you work with teams, hopefully going forward as leaders, would definitely help build the future of work. Last but not the least, and I'll touch upon it because I think it's going to be important for the participants here, is skills. I mean, and I'm going to talk about IT services because that's what I'm representing here. We know that it's in a constant state of flux, IT services. Technologies are evolving, clients' needs are changing, there are new challenges that are emerging. So having an adaptable mindset, being flexible, open to new ideas, we've already spoken about it. Having an empathy, but most important is trust. Learning to trust the leaders with their team members, placing trust in work models, having a trust-based management approach is going to be extremely important going forward. and including a fostering of culture of skilling, reskilling, being open to technology-driven solutions in whichever part of the work that we do is going to become extremely important. So with that, I will be happy to hand back, and I'm sure there are a lot of questions. I think we are heading into the Q&A session. But as I said, future of work is evolving. I wish I had a crystal ball and could say this is how 5 years down the line it's going to look like. But I think, we are still in an evolving stage, which is good because it's just going to make the place that we live in better. So back to you with that, Shrirupa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am, for touching upon on the trending arenas of today's corporate and especially in the domain of HR. And we have Dr. Krish Shanker back with us. Sir, are you there? He was just on the verge of, summarizing his points, and unfortunately, we lose the connection with him. Dr. Shankar had joined us back. I believe the technical glitch still persists. So we'll move ahead with the question answers. The Zoom link is full, and we have other audience over the YouTube live as well. So we have received a couple of questions from the students from both the platforms. So I'll take up the questions one by one. So I would request Dr. Rao, if he is with us, connected, to address this question from a student, Ms. Isha Mondol. She has written, "Sir, how to set ambition correctly when you are a first generation of lawyer?" We have law students here also. So probably the first part of the question is applicable to all the students, is how to set ambition correctly. Is Dr. Rao there?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. I don't know. There is anything like setting ambition correctly. I think what the candidate means is realistically.
Yes.
I would think that it's good to be, first of all, ambitious. Be constantly aware of your strong points, whatever you are, what you are good at. And I think today everyone is talking about flexibility. If you look at the law profession itself, lots of things are happening. A law today is not the same as what it used to be. I think it is spreading everywhere. So I think the most important thing, as all of us have been stressing, is to constantly learn, be aware. And as Anil has said, today we all have access to internet. I think, is it possible for you to, before you even you consider setting up anything like setting your goals properly or correctly or realistically, can you just keep scanning the environment, what is happening across the world? You don't have to go to the library. You have this cell with you. I think, can you just make a list of all the things that are happening in the world in terms of law? I think there are law everywhere and so on. So I would think that it's more important to be aware of the changing world. I think then you will set your goals as you strike this. You'll set your goals. I think intuitively or whatever is the kind of thing. So I'm not an advocate of setting goals realistically. At one time, olden days, we used to say, be a calculated risk taker. Today, I think people say, we don't know what you have inside. Keep exploring more and more. And exploration is always risky. Maybe, Anil, I think you're from Gym of Leadership, which is your next book in the making. You have something to say on this?
Dr. Khandelwal, are you there with us? Yes.
Unmute, Anil. You're muted. You have to unmute.
Okay. I never set ambition. I always set challenges. The ambition becomes very personal. I want to become this, and then there is a quest of becoming and being. So I never wanted to become somebody. What I want being, who am I? What I really, whether I can meet the emerging challenges, whether I can, so I never set ambition per se that I want to become this. I wanted to deal with challenges. For example, in my first job, I saw there's a chaotic working environment. If I become somebody, can I help solve this problem? So those were the kind of, because ambitions, if they are not fulfilled, it leads to frustration. But if we continuously prepare ourselves to meet challenges, ambitions are natural byproduct of that.
Good, sir. Excellent, sir. I like you.
Thank you, sir. And with that, I will request you to address the next question. What steps can I take to pave a smoother path toward a successful career? And what key qualities should I focus on developing to become an effective leader in the corporate world? This has been asked by Farizul Sheikh.
One recommendation I have to all of them is, I think, one of the recent books by Abhijit Baduri, Career 3.0, deals with quite a few of these questions on career. He, for example, suggests 6 skills everyone must acquire. One of them is also articulating and communicating, constantly searching. Third, being flexible, make your own kind of a brand, keep story, and so on. I think this book is available all over. In fact, I have just put a small note in the LinkedIn. So any one of you who are interested in looking at your career, I would strongly recommend you to go through this book. There's lots of insights, lots of stories. What he's saying is, most important thing is to keep enhancing your skill set. The world is going to be skill-based, and you should have not one skill, many skills, with an interest in being flexible, try out different things, and so on. I think that's one suggestion I have, but maybe others will have things to add. Anil, and
Krish, any other?
Yes, Krish book, I think, is a very useful book.
Yes, so I would like Dr. Khandelwal to address this question, and Dr. Shankar is back, so I'll move to him next.
Okay.
This is an interesting question, sir, from Vicky Kumar Thakur. He has written, "How to make a successful career in finance, having been done his MBA." And not having any professional course like CA or CMA. So he is not from the League of CAs, but an MBA in finance, and he wants to know how to make a successful career in the domain of finance. To you, Khandelwal, sir.
So you are at least lucky you are MBA finance. I did not have anything in finance and eventually ended up heading the bank. So you are lucky. You will make a great career, provided you focus on certain basic principles of leading yourself on to the career path. And sometimes I often wonder, TV, that there is so much to talk about leadership. And they are such simplistic concept, such simplistic. Listening, communication, credibility, curiosity. Sometimes I wonder that we have created a full course out of it, academic institutions are running, other things. They're such simple concepts. So therefore, please understand, demystify leadership, walk on the right path, and I think you will have a great career.
Thank you, sir. Hope the query has been sorted. Dr. Shankar, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm there.
Yes. Thank you, sir, for joining back. Unfortunately, we lost the connection with you. So you were just about to summarize your AOC concept. So will you share a couple of more words, and then I have a question stored for you.
Okay. Sorry, some things happen like that. But yes, as I said, 3 points I want to talk about. That career is the DNA of two things: your CV as well as your leadership brand. The concept of, for starters, how do you look at AOC? Building your own career. The last thing I wanted to say is this, in the sense that uh, the future is all about how we keep abreast of newer things. Yeah, and I think many things that people have already spoken about. I think the first one is curiosity. Yeah, I think we've got to have saying, let me find something, what's happening. And that's something we all have to build in ourselves. The second one that we got to do in the future, especially with so much change happening, how do you connect the dots? The best leaders are the ones who are able to see pattern and connect the dots. Diverse things, you got to see what's happening somewhere in AI and say how I can use it somewhere else. So that's where the genius comes. So I think as leaders, expand your knowledge. Don't be too focused in only one thing. Be a little more broader. Have what I would call as a helicopter perspective. Yeah. And what does that mean? That you go into the details, you understand the problem, but you zoom out and think at a very strategic level, understand the big picture and connect the dots. I think that's a big skill. I think great leaders have that skill. So that's something I would say we've got to really work on. I think the last part is you have to be good with your simple people skills. I think these skills, something that you can never kind of say you've arrived. You've got to keep on improving things like empathy, influencing, communication, all of those. So work on those, and collaboration is going to be very, very important. Yeah. The last one is clearly as the world is going forward. Nowadays, people are not worried. And 5 years from now, people won't be worried whether you are an MBA or whatever it is. They'll say, are you able to do these things? Are you able, and what have you done? So they look at what you've done and what skills you have and what can you do. So you got to really keep yourself abreast. And that's something, no formal education is going to help. That's there to a basic level. But beyond that, it is you in terms of the experiences you have and how you keep learning. Yeah. And that's going to be very important, because especially in the tech world nowadays, it's not about whether you're an engineer, but whether you can do this problem in Java and stuff like that. And that's going to be something which is going to come all across. People are going to be more focused on what you can do, the skills you have, and what you're able to, how you can bring your problem solving to really to focus. Yeah. So that's, be practical in what you want to do, and experience, and be hands-on in various things. Those are the kind of things that I would just suggest. So I think with that, over to any questions that people would have.
Yes, sir. So before we let you go from this discussion, certain questions for you. How the future of HR would be for startup companies with their fast changing growth trends?
Well, HR is always going to be very important, because wherever companies employ people, you got to really think how to get the best out of people. Yeah. So HR is what? HR is really orchestrating systems and culture so that you can get the best out of people. I think in startups is going to be very important, because if you look at it, there was a research recently saying that one of the big things that startups are needing is to have the right people in the right jobs. Yeah. And I think HR can help do that, identify key people and put them in the right jobs. Building the culture, that's very important in a startup, saying what are those things and how do you really build that culture? So that is the other thing that HR can do in startup. And thirdly, really setting the stage for building all the processes and systems for the future, using technology, using AI, and building the organization as an institution for the future. And that's where HR will have a very big role. So I think clearly, startups need lots more HR than otherwise, because HR is very critical to really make their startup sustainable. Hiring the right people and getting them to be productive, building the culture, setting your right values and building the culture so that you can grow, and putting in the right systems and processes using technology so that the startup is sustainable. So I think HR has a very key role to play.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining us back and addressing to the question. I would request Pallavi ma'am to address the next query. one student had written, what advice do you have for students in terms of building a strong professional network and how to build this social networking for creating a successful career? Pallavi ma'am, if you are there and if you can kindly address to this question.
Yes, please, I'm here. And it's an interesting question, but I can definitely say that this incoming generation at work is most adept at building networks, more than at least I think our generation was, or I definitely personally was. When I look at my daughter, her answers to her questions on what track to take, what career to build, which place to go, a lot came from just reaching out from one friend to the other to the third who would have had some experience in it, whether a couple of years senior to her or a couple of years junior as well. At workplace, look, it is still the reality that we are in hybrid working mode in most organizations. Very few are fully back at work at the workplace. It becomes extremely difficult to build a relationship, whatever you might say, if you have not met in person and been able to, as they call it, break bread, have coffee together, if I may say so. In that case, I think it's extremely important to understand in your ecosystem who your stakeholders are, who your peers are, and uh, how does your work interface with the rest of the organization when you're working there, and then build that connect one-on-one as well. In consulting world, we call it a stakeholder mapping, which we do before we start any projects. So there's a structured way of doing it. I would suggest you do that. But more importantly, what helped me in my career, and I always say that, what made me where I am is because of my bosses. They taught me a lot. I definitely was not the easiest follower, so they listened to what I said as well. And I had tremendous mentors. I still have a mentor in my current organization, and I lean to them for any career advice before making any change in my role, responsibility. I think it's important to have that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am, for those insights. I would now request Mr. Prem Singh. Uh, Singh, sir, if you are there, if you can address the next question, which states what are the key factors that employers typically look at for when hiring new graduates? A similar question in this line has also come from Anukriti Singh, who has written, what are the basic skills that I should have to have a successful career? So, Mr. Singh, if you're there.
Rupa, I guess Mr. Singh is not there.
Okay. Okay, so probably anyone from the speaker, if anyone can address to this question where the students are asking about what are the key factors or what are the basic skills that they need to have as freshers, which employers typically look at while hiring new graduates. Anyone? Probably Pallavi ma'am or Krish sir, anyone, if you can please address to this query.
Pallavi is probably best suited to.
Can you repeat the question, Shri Rupa, and Krish, please feel free to jump in. You have more
Yes.
experience.
So the question is about what are the key factors the employers look into while hiring new graduates?
Look, I mean, first is if you are graduating from a certain college and if the hiring is happening from there, academic knowledge, I think, is more key than academic excellence, right? And I think Chris spoke about collaboration and competition. That's the first thing. If one is doing a technical course, then certain amount of technical knowledge of the course that you have completed gets tested as well. But more importantly, our esteemed panelists have spoken about soft skills. They all are simple in nature, as we mentioned here, but they are various tests that get taken to check, from a attitudinal perspective, mindset perspective, how an individual would respond to a certain situation. So it becomes more situational in its nature as well. It's important. One cannot take away the fact that communication skills, especially in today's world, where a lot is virtual, has got more importance than what it was in the past. I personally believe content triumphs communication, but one should not lose importance of communication as well.
May I add something? For a consulting firm in HR like ours, I find in the recent past, we have made some mistakes of looking at the depth of knowledge of the people whom we are recruiting. We trusted the institute and then what is written in the curricula, and we focus more on the soft skills. And then we discovered that we have candidates who are very good in soft skills, but absolutely have no depth on simple things like performance management, new practices, or assessment centers, or on 360-degree feedback, or even recruitment methods and things like that. And what we discovered was that today, I think particularly this happened in the last 3 to 4 years, because there is a COVID generation who never attended probably classes, never had in-depth understanding. And also what is happening is today, you are in the class. Just the other day, I was discussing with some people in a college. In fact, I asked one of the very top level professors in IIM Ahmedabad, how do you enjoy, how are you finding the students today? He said, I am very disappointed. In fact, he's about to retire. He's always rated as the best teacher. He said, why? Because I have a new challenge in the class. The challenge is that they all are more in terms of when 1 minute answer kind of people. They want everything to be taught in 1 minute. So it is because they are accustomed to SMSs and then all the other social media and so on. So I said, but case method totally gives a different. They can't participate in the discussion if you are using a case method and they read. They said no, they don't come prepared. And on the top of it, I therefore am forced to put a PPT on the board. And even in PPT, their mind goes off because they all carry mobiles, and most of the time they are clicking the mobiles. I don't know where they are. Now, it's not with IIM only. This is the experience I got in another management school just a week after that when I talked to people. So what happens is you have become a mobile or internet or Google baby. You never went into depth. And on the top of it, objective questions are asked in the exam that yes, no, multiple choice. So you have not studied anything like an essay and so on. So suddenly you discover in a company like in a consulting company, I mean, it's different. McKinsey, I think you should try, because a person from McKinsey has totally a different kind of thing to report in terms of the recruitment and so on. So my suggestion is please focus your attention on learning in depth the knowledge. While soft skills are important, very important, but over-dependent on soft skills at the cost of the basic knowledge in any profession you have is not going to pay you back unless you decide, no, I think I can just hoodwink people and then somehow get the job and so on. So now there are intelligent job applicants whose skills are very good in getting the job but lack depth. I think one has to be cautious. So what I would recommend to the students is please take your academic preparation. I think I'm glad Pallavi said that in a way. Academic preparation seriously and go depth, read books. Don't give up your reading habits. I mean, you can't be learning only on internet and SMS, WhatsApp groups. This is what I feel. I don't know, Krish, would you agree with that?
Yeah. I think you're right. I think what's happening is, and this is the world today is very distracted. Yeah. And I think this distraction sometimes, and people are multitasking. And when you're multitasking and distracted, you can't really bring your thought to a problem. Yeah. So I think that's something we have to really be careful of. I think the key is the fundamental understanding of of whatever you're doing, academics is very important. Yeah, I think if you have the basics, then you can build on it. But if you're weak on the basics, you struggle. So ensure that that is there. But you also build other things, don't just, it's not that alone, but you should be strong on the basics, but get skills how you can really connect with different topics, connecting the dots, ability to ask problems, ability to ask questions rather than just kind of thing. So one of the things that's people are now saying is, listen, and this is all about what kind of questions are you asking so that you can get the right answers. So that's the other thing. So I think you got to have that curious mind, which is important. I think, when I was in levers and we were interviewing, I think first thing we always would check was how solid is this person's intellect? How are they able to think on their feet? How are they able to apply concepts to problems? So those are all very important. You understand the concepts, the basics, but also be adept in applying it to different situations. So those are things that will really be important for organizations to look, when they look for fresh graduates.
Thank you so much. With that very important essence, we will close the Q&A session here. We have a couple of more questions to go through, but due to paucity of time, probably we can get your queries sorted offline through the speakers. And now moving on to our last speaker of the day, Mr. Abhinandan Mukherjee, who is one of our partners. And a quick introduction of Mr. Mukherjee. He is an alumni of University of Texas, Austin, and her own education ventures. He has worked with the World Bank as a human resource specialist. He is a co-committee member of Asia HRM and a member of NHRD Kolkata chapter as well. He is the co-founder and director of VN Power, which works in the domain of enabling and empowering professionals by creating skill-based capability building models, architecting next-level communities as a practice, promoting adoption of tech, gig, and early entrepreneurship, and in those domains. He is the chief product officer of Batch Free, a talent market exchange, which works in the domain of user experience through intuitive product design, building the ecosystem of talent readiness for future of work, solving for right talent for the right job at the right time. He is also the program director of At Pace Academy, which works in the domain of leading the program design, content development, and program management for employability of HR and young professionals, passionately driving learning through communities to enhance employability, helps organizations architect and build their new hire engagement framework, a key partner to NHRD Kolkata chapter and one of the significant brains behind this event. I would request Mr. Mukherjee to be the next speaker and to unmute. The stage is yours now, Mr. Mukherjee. Sorry, cannot hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I think in the presence of all the stalwarts and from the likes of Dr. T.V. Rao, Dr. Anil Khandelwal, Mrs. Tyagi, Ranjan Banerjee, Dr. Krish, I think I don't have much to say. I think there were a lot of thanks for the introduction, Shri Rupa, but I think I would rather be introduced as, an NHRDN Kolkata chapter member and someone who's very passionate about driving employability of freshers and graduates. So I think while I bring up the few slides that I have, I think the first one I thought while we were going through the learnings was quickly summarize what we heard from all the stalwarts here, right? So the first slide that you saw, I think, are just the keywords that I took away from all the sharing. So I thought it'll be kind of very relevant for us to, just take a look at this, maybe about 30 seconds. And while we are on this, I think the key thing that I took away was, if you see, this is also how many times we heard about learning. So the learning comes bigger, right? So, and I think it's very important for everyone here, right? I mean, people are there and people will, maybe refer to the recording as well. I think, we went through the question answer round as well. The one thing that I continue to take back is application-driven learning, be curious. And in fact, Dr. Krish was just talking about questions. So I think asking questions is becoming one of the core skills, right? Even we are getting engineers who can ask questions to ChatGPT, right? So answers are available. We just have to be able to ask the right questions. Curiosity is something that we heard throughout. But today I think I'm more here to talk about the Career Club, HR Club initiatives of NHRDN Kolkata chapter. And I think the guidance of the core committee and the senior leadership of NHRDN Kolkata chapter and the center, I think, so there are a lot of things that have happened, right? So what we see on the screen is kind of the starting point. And what we are here today is recollecting some of these memorable or notable achievements that that has got achieved. I think definitely a lot of things go out to the institutes, to the members of the NHRDN Kolkata chapter. I don't want to be reading out what you see on the screen, but I think whatever you see on the screen is very important for us to realize that some of these are journeys, right? And NHRDN has been a pioneer in these initiatives to bring about the changes in freshers. So what's the vision? I think where do we go from here, right? That's what we are here today. And we heard all the industry stalwarts around what it is about building a career. So definitely, I think it's about, opening more chapters around the HR club, career clubs, being able to have the representation. So we heard about unions. Dr. Khandelwal was mentioning about his experience with unions, but we don't want to be calling them unions, but I think that their voice to be heard is very important. So councils in each campus. So how do we start off? So, we all know about the Super 30 movie, right? So it just takes 30 of you to come together from any of the students who are not yet part of the career clubs or HR clubs to just come together and approach the NHRDN Kolkata chapter to start off your branch or your chapter of the HR club or career club. The continuation of these events will happen quarterly, annual, and there are institutional memberships available as well, which gives deeper relationships. What does the HR club or career club initiative aim to build? Definitely, we all heard about all the pieces that I summarized in the earlier slide. I think it's capability building with a structured and sustained effort. So one-time effort. So to all my friends who's hearing here today, the young friends. So today you should take as just one of the beginnings, right? Today is not the end. So let's continue the sustained effort. Understanding oneself is very important. We heard one of the speakers talking about how important it is to be self-aware, knowing, creating your purpose, establishing your purpose. So very important. And this doesn't come without each one of you putting your effort around, assessing yourself, doing your self-awareness, exercises. Definitely take your stance in terms of bridging the skill gap. Industry readiness, future age skill development, I think we've heard already, right, from the speakers. And then what have I been focusing on, and what have, so the initiatives that I've been part of, definitely I'm representing the entire group here. I've been in Singapore for a few years and started this off, leaving my full-time World Bank role. Because I think there has to be focused initiatives, around fresher employability, and that's where this partnership with the NHRDN Kolkata chapter. So I think what we've achieved all this while is overall a 5-pronged approach. But if you look at its simplistic tools, and we heard Dr. TV Rao and Dr. Anil Khandelwal talking about core skills. Dr. Krish Shanker also mentioned about core skills. And then about domain skills. So what we are doing today is a combination. And I heard someone asking, what are the skills, right? And I think cannot agree less with any of the speakers, given their experience goes much beyond what I can share here. Definitely core skills and a combination of domain-related skills. So there's a skill framework that we work on across domains. So when you see the learning environments, it's not just HR, and that's why the initiative also about career clubs, right? Not just HR clubs. So that's where I think it goes beyond just learning sessions, multiple activity-based learning, learning by doing. I think there's a rule. I think if any of you heard about, this rule of 10,000 hours, right? Outliers is a book which is very popular. If any of you happen to read it, you'll know that this rule of 10,000 hours. Have you applied something for 10,000 hours and then you become a master in that? I mean, it's one of the principles. And I think it's important for us to be part of larger ecosystems which go beyond India. I think India is a continent on its own, is one of the top 3, top 5 economies today. But I think what we also bring to the table is our association with other HR communities across Asia, ASEAN, and also the skill programs, the domain programs being certified by certain standards which are global, right? And it's very important for us to align with what's happening in the world across. With this, I think I just want to have just 1 minute more in terms of what is in store for all the students who are here today, and for anyone who would watch this recording or the session going forward. So NHRDN Kolkata chapter has definitely plans of continuing to create these opportunities for awareness sessions, industry connects. What we had today was one of the very beginning ones, but this is not just one of them, right? I think this has been happening across the B schools where NHRDN has a partnership and otherwise. So I think making use of those, I think, is very important. I don't remember who, but I think I heard one of the stalwarts mentioning about create your purpose, but take the opportunities that are also created, right? 10-15% would come from the college with all the structured education, but how do you create learning opportunities on the go? In my learning framework, I think when I went out in 2021 and 2022 to do 2 rounds of surveys with experts who are working with freshers, what I heard are 3 things, top 3 things. That was set expectations. Don't try to be drive the rocket on the first day. You definitely have to go some 100 kilometers away, fix a screw, and sit there for another thing to go wrong before you can really climb to that, corporate ladder. So be ready that, strategy is about execution. There's nothing strategic unless we are able to execute. The second was learnability is one of the biggest challenges that freshers are facing when they transition from a structured learning environment to a corporate environment. And we heard a very relatable sharing by experts today saying that, create learning opportunities on the go. How can you apply what you've learned? Very important. So, the corporate readiness, interview readiness, employability assessment, the learning modules, all of these are opportunities for you to see how you can pick up what you've learned for this session. How do you take that back and apply at least one concept, every day? And we need to do that every day is what we heard. Mentoring is one of the very important elements that is planned as part of the future forward, engagements. Collaboration with internationally acclaimed, frameworks, partners, Toastmasters being one of them, helps taking these initiatives to a global level, right? And what we bring in the opportunity to have exchange sessions based on, how students participate. I think the saddest part is all of these opportunities are made available, but when we go back and see the engagement levels, somehow that falls short of the expectations. So I'm hoping every one of you who spend your afternoon here, the last couple of hours, would take that opportunity to make use of the platform, of the ecosystem that's getting created by NHRDN Kolkata chapter. That's all. And last but not the least, I think really honored to be here sharing the stage with all the stalwarts of the industry, and looking forward to continuously engage with the NHRDN Kolkata chapter, driving the initiatives around fresher employability. Pallavi Jha, Ranjan Banerjee, I think thanks, really appreciate. Back to you, Shirupa. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee. Thanks a lot. Yes, we all have, stated the importance of having connected to the students, helping them to groom up to become the leaders of tomorrow. And I'll quote what Pallavi ma'am said. I love this, sentence. That's where the future lies. That's the strength of a nation. So we are almost on the verge of winding up this particular session. And I would request Mr. Dibendu Thakur, the Secretary of NHRD Kolkata chapter. He has worked with Vesuvius, Bombardier Transportation, Texmaco, XPX Flow in global roles. At present, he is the HR Director of South Asia and whole-time Director of ACF India, Stanley Black & Decker. I would request Mr. Thakur to thank all our organizers, the audience, and our esteemed speakers. Over to you, Dibendu sir.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Srirupa. I hope I'm audible. So I know we are, overrun by almost 25 minutes, so I won't take much opportunity, but this is an opportunity which I also did not want to miss. I'm in Mumbai, but still I want to attend and listen to the speakers of today who I can term as guru. So most of you will understand what I mean by guru. Uh, so on behalf of NHRD Kolkata chapter, I would like to thank all the speakers for their time. So Professor TV Rao, Dr. Anil Khandelwal, Mr. Prem Singh, Dr. Krish Shanker, Ms. Pallavi Tyagi, especially, attending from Europe, and obviously our chapter president, Ranjan Banerjee. Thank you for your valuable thoughts. I was writing it down, although because key learning for such a valuable session. I myself is a student of Dr. TV Rao, so I completed a certification from Sir, and that was my first visit with Sir to IIM Ahmedabad. So Sir obviously has taught so many students, he won't recall me, but I recall my first visit to IIM Ahmedabad and attending a class with Sir. So. And so I believe what are the most important things which Mr. Mukherjee has done that key learning in a beautifully in one slide. And I must thank Mr. Abhinandan Mukherjee for doing that and the wonderful, career club concept that he has brought in. So really thankful. And I'm sure this is going to still help not only the students or the budding young leaders. This also helps us or reminds us many things after so many years in the fraternity and in the career. So what couple of things I think, sir, to Professor Rao, sir, we will not only start, but we will continue and sustain this. So just an assurance from NHRD Kolkata chapter, we will definitely sustain this because sustainability is an issue. And sir talked about creating memories. I think he has really shared some good memories of him. Dr. Anil Khandelwal talked about self-leadership and value of responsiveness amongst many. I'm just quickly touching upon which, are things that we should recall. And then obviously Ranjan talked about young minds, challenging status quo and outside-in perspective. And, Dr. Krish Shankar also talked about career DNA and two strands, really. And just so that you know very quickly, Srirupa might not be knowing because I could not inform everybody. So I joined very recently a company called Thermo Fisher Scientific, okay? And we do research on these DNAs, RNAs, and antibodies. And I have been to the R&D lab, so which is very, very interesting as well. So, and we talked about learning and curiosity in most of the speakers talked about.
Sir, I
Mr.
have one question. I want to ask one question, sir.
Sorry, Shrupa?
Sir, I have one question, sir.
One
Can you
question.
please write it on the chat box kindly?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So you may
Okay.
continue.
Yes, yeah. So Ms. Pallavi Tyagi talked about obviously ITES space is obviously a evolving stage on AI and many other things, flexibility of work, unlocking potential. Dr. Krish Shanker also talked about that. And obviously, last Mr. Abhinandan Mukherjee has summarized it really, really well. I think these kind of sessions, is not only helps us in only career, career progression or something. I think what it helps is, also to help us to become a, complete professional, not only in our HR or law, finance career, but as a complete professional. And what we heard, I'm sure there will be more topics to come in future. And thanks to the entire NHRD, NHRD Kolkata chapter team, our chapter secretariat, and especially Shrirupa for coordinating this so well. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you everybody for joining us, especially all our guest speakers, the wonderful audience. We have received immense response from each and every one of you, and there was a request if all of us who are here now can switch on their video for a group photograph. We understand that we could not cater to all the questions due to paucity of time. If we can request everybody present in the link to switch on the video for a group photograph.
Yes, I'm taking the photograph. Khandelwal sir, if you are there, you can switch on your video, please.
Thanks to all our partners, the institutions which has helped us, the organizing members, all the faculties and other staffs from the institutions who have been in constant touch to make this event a success. And yes, we are receiving overwhelming responses through our WhatsApp and mail. And students are really excited with the insights that they have received from this session. Wishing you all a wonderful day ahead. Hope to see you all soon. Good luck to the students for their career ahead. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.